Welcome back. You're still watching the Weekly Brief right here on News 9. And there's a trend which is not all that promising, at least when it comes to the middle income and those who represent the middle class of the country. The moot question of being able to send your children to private schools to get them quality education without really burning too big a hole in your pocket is something which is daunting for parents of school-going children right now. And we've seen, Rakeshri, social media abuzz with influencers and entrepreneurs and startup founders really sending pictures of the hike in school fees. And I remember when my daughter started going to school. I mean, you have children who are through with that journey. But a few years ago, when my daughter started going to school, the fee that I was paying for her nursery education, the monthly fee, was in fact more than what I paid for my MBA at IIM Lucknow about 10 years before that. So nursery, pre-nursery school fee almost, in fact, in some cases, even higher than what you pay for higher education.
True.
This has got to stop somewhere just by adding international or global or world in your school name. Should not entitle schools to actually charge fees, which is absolutely, unimaginable and exorbitant, to say the least. Where are you seeing this story going, Rakesh?
Well, I think, Karthik, I may be a little unpopular on this. There are two aspects to it. One is the societal aspect, and the second is actually, the corporate piece of, these institutions, fleecing parents or fleecing students. So, first and foremost, the fact of the matter is that there is a court intervention. There is for instance, Delhi, all the big schools, this became a huge story a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Then Delhi government, then led by Arvind Kejriwal, brought about 300 schools in the ambit of, creating a framework for it where parents were also involved. Then finally, schools represented went to courts and court said that you have to prevent profiteering without explaining exactly what is profiteering.
Sure.
They use two words, profiteering and commercialization.
Right.
Nobody is defining how it is.
Right.
For them, it may be genuine profit. For us, it will be commercialization.
Right.
Versus not allowing, parents or the civil society in this case to get into actually fixing the fees, either by the government or the society.
Right.
So that's where the framework is. That's where the ecosystem
So
is.
let's talk about this
But
profit
the
or
societal part
profiteering.
I want to bring in.
Okay.
So I think, I'm taking back to myself to school when I was there in 79, 80 in matriculation. So our school had this, they created an ability section. And ability section was essentially, I'm a Hindi medium product. And there were these kids who were much brighter from their academic record. And they were given all their attention. It was called an ability. So it was section B. I was in section A. Forget the nomenclature. B was where the entire action was going to happen.
Okay.
So my father, who himself used to be a teacher in a government school, so he came up to the principal and said that this amounts to creating a state within a state. This is racial discrimination. Today, our own society has created a framework where, parents in their peer competitive pressure are pushing themselves into a situation where it's a cash trap.
Right.
And not necessarily a great return on that investment.
Absolutely.
I'll explain how. All these kids who pass out from these schools, whether it is in XYZ, let's not get into names, finally scrambled to get into Delhi University. Delhi University has 4.5 lakh applications for 45,000 seats.
Yeah. First, on the profiteering part, is it fair to believe, because that seems to be the stated law, that schools can operate only as trusts or as societies, and by definition, they've got to be non-profit. So if they've got to be non-profit, that money is still going somewhere, and all that money is definitely not getting reinvested in the school to increase the number of sections, to intake more students from society, or offer services which actually are able to deliver to what parents are paying for that education.
So that's a good point you made, Karthi, because I think the problem stems from the fact that education under our constitution is in the concurrent list,
Right.
which is the center as well as the state both
That's
have
right.
a say in it. Now, you're absolutely right. The K-12 schools
Right.
are supposed to be not-for-profit or Section 8, kind of foundations
Right.
or trusts or societies. Now, what happens is, while you have told these schools that you cannot take money out, you can't pay dividend to the trustees or to the people who are behind it, what these people have, the promoters and the trustees have figured out is they found the loophole in the system. So I'll tell you how they make money. You asked how do they make money?
Yeah.
So let's say if you're running a school, I, as the trustee, I own the land. I can lease the building or the land to the school.
Right.
Right. You're paying me an exorbitant amount
As
of money
rental.
for leasing it. That's
Sure.
number one. Two, I and my relatives can run the school bus service.
Right.
Okay. There's no control on what the
Right.
school bus fee actually will be.
Yes.
I need to go to a specific vendor to buy my, clothes, my books, the uniform,
Yes,
everything.
yes.
Right? And then all the other ancillary things that I do. For example, if I'm taking kids on excursion, or there's no control or oversight on that.
Yes.
So that is exactly how the system beats the regulations. And, there have been court cases, and we have tried to bring this down, but even courts have thrown up their hands saying that, this is too complicated for us, because no matter what we do, they'll always find a way to beat the regulations and make money.
So what is the solution? The fact that we don't have good quality public schools in the country, the fact that parents often, if they can afford it, want to send their children to the best educational institution they can find. And I think the three of us sitting here are prime examples of not sending our children to public schools simply because public schools did not, in our respective times, deliver the kind of quality of education that we wanted our children to get. What are parents expected to do? Because you can't negotiate school fees. You can't sort of, go and audit their books and tell them that, hey, you are fleecing me.
Although, Karthik, even every fee increase has to be done in consultation with the parents. Law mandates that. There is a committee in which parents are part of
the
it.
meetings are not taking place.
The
and
limited
then
point
Exactly,
is, what are
yes,
parents expected to do? Because school fees are high. You want to give your children international exposure because potentially the aspiration is not to get those children to join a Delhi university. With due respect to Delhi University, I'm a Delhi University product myself, but you actually want to give them better quality of education, which can give them a better quality of life.
Delhi University was a place
Potentially
you send
with
them
or without.
IIT to IIM ultimately.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the track.
Right. So,
to
what
my-
can parents do? That's a limited question.
Not just parents. First and foremost, we discussed this remedy and this freebie. I think one area where Government of India, or all governments must commit heavy investments and with the
Education.
is education.
Right.
That too, primary education.
right.
I have for long.
And China has done that. And China has been able to very successfully
So,
create
if you-
a full range of
and-
public schools which are offering the best in class
It's not a
education.
huge investment. If you look at the result sheet of Kendriya Vidyalayas and some states, including Delhi government, it's not anyway much less than any of these high profile schools.
You're right.
You have no
So the
control on them.
only solution to, getting over the tyranny of private sector schools, Karthik, is to enhance the quality of our public schooling system.
Absolutely.
That's the only solution.
You have to
Government
invest
has to
more,
focus
pay more,
on.
more salary.
As
to-
parents, we must feel comfortable sending our children to public schools and be sure that they'll get the same quality of education that you would get in a private school. Until that happens, I think we'll remain hostage to the private schools as parents.
Absolutely. And hostage we are to these exorbitant school fees that we continue to pay. But with that, we will actually end this edition of the Weekly Brief. Let me thank Rakesh Khar, Sridharan, gentlemen. Always a pleasure having you here on the Weekly
Thank you,
Brief.
Karthik.
And
Thank
of
you,
course,
Karthik.
news continues right here on News 9. So stay tuned.